negotiators. It's aimed at ending the conflict between Ukraine and Moscow. Now, the proposal would require major concessions from Kyiv, giving up Crimea and the Donbas region to Russia, cutting its military nearly in half and promising never to join NATO. In exchange, Ukraine will receive U.S.-led security guarantees and billions in reconstruction funds, that is, while sanctions on Russia would be lifted. Critics say that the plan mirrors Putin's wish list, while supporters argue that it's the only path to stop the ongoing violence. CBS News correspondent Scott McFarlane joining us right now to break it all down for us. So, Scott, let's get into this, shall we? The White House says that Ukraine would get NATO-style security guarantees. How strong are those guarantees compared to actual NATO membership?
Let's take a step back and reflect on the idea of a 28-point plan. That is an ambitious thing, even in the best of circumstances, in the least charged of circumstances. You mentioned some of the top lines there, and I think they're critical, that Ukraine would give up space in the eastern Donbas region, where there has been so much of the most fierce fighting, giving up space in Crimea, giving up territory. And what's more, this assurance that they wouldn't seek membership in NATO. It's hard to imagine any quick response to something that is, first of all, that provocative, second of all, that big and that dense. And yeah, it's also, at this point, not a empirical thing to know exactly what a stronger relationship with NATO would mean. So there's a lot of things still to be worked out. This is a process that feels more like it's closer to the beginning than the end.
Has President Zelensky given any indication that Ukraine might, in fact, accept these terms?
Yeah, we know Zelensky's been taking meetings on this issue. We know the U.S. Army Secretary is in Kyiv, extended his stay in Kyiv to continue discussions, but there hasn't been an unequivocal, unambiguous response to this. But the idea of giving up territory in the eastern Donbas region, there's been no sense from the Ukrainian prime minister that that's something they're eager to do, or that that's an easy sell.
So this plan would lift sanctions on Russia. How significant is that for Moscow?
It's hard to imagine how many more sanctions one could institute on Russia. There are so many U.S. economic actions against Russia, and have been for some time now. When you talk about instituting new sanctions on oil or otherwise, it's on top of an awful lot that's already there. And those sanctions have not shown to be terribly effective in getting the Russians to do certain things.
Yeah, we do know that it has been at least marginally impactful on their economy nonetheless. But Scott, what does this mean for U.S.-Russia relations and obviously for the United States' credibility with its allies?
Yeah, the president keeps saying he has a uniquely strong, in his mind, relationship with Putin, and that should be to the U.S.'s benefit. In fact, he just said it a few minutes ago while speaking from the Oval Office. But his ability to stop a war he said he could try to end on day one has proven fruitless, despite whatever relationships they have now and whatever relationships they're trying to grow.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about sort of the concessions it will require for Ukraine's military, capping it at 600,000 troops. How could that affect Ukraine's defense long term?
So many different variables could impact the long-term trajectory of Ukraine's military, including U.S. aid. You'll recall when this war started in February 2022, the U.S. readied and delivered hundreds of millions, of billions of dollars in aid, military aid, supplies, financial aid for humanitarian needs. You know, that pipeline has been interrupted in the last few months and the last couple of years. Interesting to see how that restarts or doesn't. There are so many long-term needs in Ukraine and so many questions about whether they'll be met.
Yeah, economic loss, people loss as well, so much. Scott, while we have you here, we have to talk about some of the local issues here as well. You know very well the ongoing pain that we've seen as a result of the shutdown, and things are starting to get back to normal as the government is now reopened. In Montgomery County, it's trying to help folks get back on track. What are you tracking there?
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before. The impact of the shutdown goes on beyond the end of the shutdown. So many families miss paychecks. The county council approved an emergency relief fund to provide some funding for families having trouble making ends meet. That's a lot of our community. It's a lot of our neighbors. Earlier this year, you'll recall the county council's Will Jawando issued legislation to help downsized workers better position themselves to find work in Montgomery County's government. Now the council has tried to provide emergency aid for the families that really got stretched during the shutdown.
Yeah, it's been hard. We know that the recovery is still ongoing. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarlane, good to see you. Happy Friday to you, friend, and we'll see you later.